Is Hugh, and this is UPEI TV. Let's talk about a topic that is striking Canada nationwide: cost of living and the housing crisis connected to the rise of mental health. Since 2003, Canada real estate has seen an increase of up to 337% in some cities, making safe and affordable housing out of reach for many across the country. Labeled as one of the most severe housing crises in Canada, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island has a vacancy rate lower than that of Toronto at 0.2%. This issue is rooted in several trends: profit-seeking suppliers, including land developers, builders, real estate companies, an increase in landlord renovations and rent, the Airbnb movement, and a lack of reliable public transportation to rural areas of PEI. Additionally, for the first time in history, PEI now has a larger population of older adults than we do youth, and this number is expected to rise. This aging population is often on a fixed income and have been hit hard with these increasing real estate prices. The third component of the trifecta relates to the rise of mental health issues. The demand for mental health service is outweighing the available resources, which includes healthcare professionals and centers to serve the community. Now, we tune into an interview with a mental health care professional who works with these vulnerable populations of PEI. We'll explore the homelessness as an issue related to mental health problems and the need to combat this social complex issue.
Hi guys, I'm sitting down with Andrew Daniels today. He's the street navigator for downtown Charlottetown. Can you describe to me what your role is as a street navigator for Charlottetown?
For sure. So generally my role is to work with people who might lack motivation, support, capacity, or resources to access services that can help lift themselves out of a tough situation. We have social assistance or community mental health and addictions, or maybe accessing like the Hep C clinic or food banks or anything like that. So I'm going to bridge the gap between people who are kind of stuck in like maybe cyclical situations, so they can access those services to help lift themselves. Gaining housing, gaining employment, maintaining those things as well. So following up with support to make sure that you're not setting someone up for failure. So generally that's what I do. I advocate for people. I kind of meet them where they're at and address their base needs so they can improve their situation and lift themselves out of whatever tough situation they happen to be in. Whether or not people actually follow through with the services that I offer is a different story.
You have an office in the downtown mall.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that you work with are no longer welcome there.
Yeah.
So how do you work with that?
So those are major barriers to me. So when it comes to people not having fixed addresses, that's a barrier, of course, for me actually meeting with them, but it becomes a barrier in other ways too when it comes to getting an ID if you don't have an address to put down. Where do they mail it to? Health card, same thing. So that's definitely a big barrier that I experience. When it comes to people being banned from the mall, that's a big problem for me, and we are working on trying to find anything where I can have an office on the street, as well as like a little warming center, a couch, coffee maker, that kind of thing. I have to end up meeting people elsewhere. So sometimes I do meet people at the library. That definitely is something that I have to work around all the time. And sometimes it means we're just going to take a walk down the street and chat in that sense.
And when you're working with somebody with resumes and stuff like that, what is the chance that they will actually get a job? Because there's that social stigma.
Absolutely, there's a social stigma, and that's something that I definitely run into. I've brought people who have experience. Maybe it's not super recent, but they do have experience in whatever field they're applying to. And because they do look a little disheveled, they will get turned away. And some success though, yeah, there are definitely those barriers and social stigmas that I have to kind of attack strategically.
So turning more specifically to the people that you're working with, is there like a demographic at the moment that that you see there's a higher prevalence?
Middle-aged men is definitely the largest demographic of my clientele.
Would there be a comorbidity of like a mental health issue or drug addiction, abuse?
I would say every single one of my clients is impacted by mental health and addiction, and a large number of the people who I work with are actively dealing with mental health issues and experiencing addiction themselves, for sure. And that, obviously adds to everything. It does definitely create kind of a cycle of trying to lift themselves out but being pulled back down. There are definitely people who need that mental health attention who don't receive it for a variety of reasons, whether it's their own motivation or lack of motivation or just, I guess, mistrust with systems in general when it comes to accessing that sort of thing. But of course, like the lack of staffing absolutely plays a role in that. So I'm always asking, like, when's your next appointment, that sort of stuff, because the last thing I want to do is have someone miss 2 appointments and their file gets closed,
Right.
and then it's another year or longer.
So my last question for you is, so with the individuals that you're currently working with, how many of them are truly homeless? How many beds are being used with the homeless shelter?
So when it comes to people who are truly homeless,
Yeah.
So when people say truly homeless, and when I say it, I'm talking about people who are sleeping on the street. I would say at the peak there was probably about 10 people who were actually, sleeping outside, whether it be in a tent or outside the bank or whatever it might be. And then when you're speaking about the wider population of people, including the people who are staying in shelter beds, generally about 40 to 50 people who are experiencing that extreme housing instability.
I'm just trying to think, like, that's a lot of people.
Absolutely,